The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators.
Depot, my lad, depot. Like the zero, high or low. We can cross any ocean, sail any river. Give us the gun and we'll deliver. Hail to the submarine. We're the men of the first submarine.
Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well. My kid's teacher this year did a really awesome job. I was very happy with her. And so I took her out for breakfast yesterday and bought her new dresses too.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, geez, I don't really know how to follow that, but it is like the end of June when we're recording this. We're almost to the 4th of July. When this airs, it's going to be right after the 4th of July because we're taking a summer cruise here in our storyline with Lou. And we're in the second part of the trilogy. I'd like to say right now to our audio listeners and probably the YouTube audience that can hear it, yes, my voice is not up to par right now. I am drinking tea and not coffee, so that's clearly an issue. But that's okay. I've rested my voice from the narrations because Andrew's doing such a wonderful job with the narrations for Lou, and Lou's going to continue with his tale. So, Jamie, I think it would be good to recap real quick where we are in the storyline. We have a special trilogy of episodes we're in, and we're in the second part of that trilogy. So, hey, everyone, if you missed the first part, go back an episode and listen to the episode called SS Atlantic Transporter, where Lou joins the Merchant Marine and starts and boards a ship called the Atlantic Transporter and starts to cross the Atlantic Ocean. For now, we know heading towards the Middle East, but they didn't get there yet, and he's describing everything along the way on this oil tanker. So, what'd you think of that first part, Jamie?
All right. So the first half, we really saw like just how much Lou loves his wife, and he clearly misses her. And they have gone through a tumultuous time. You know, he was in the East Coast and then she moved out there with him. She really wasn't happy, wanted to go. They tried to make a go of it in Iowa. So like they're experiencing this, I don't know what,
There's like upheaval. It seems
an
like.
upheaval. That's a great way. An upheaval in their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being apart right now. She is with her family, you know, which is good. I think that, you know, him being away, her being in Iowa is probably better. You know, she's able to confide in her parents and her sister and be close to everybody. So we don't, and in these letters, we really don't get Sweetie's perspective during this time. This is all Lou. So it's really fun, I think, personally for me to get to know Lou a little bit more and see where he's coming from. And, you know, and this is actually, I was thinking, what an incredible trip. Like he got to go out to the east and like to the Mediterranean and he got to see all these really awesome places.
Yeah.
So you know, it is fun to like to hear his point of view.
Yeah. But we're going to have some very interesting reflections from Lou today because finally they're done crossing the Atlantic. I mean, they're looking at water for a while, right? They're on these big oil tankers going across. But right at the end of the last episode, they started to say he was going through the Strait of Gibraltar, which is right on that point of Spain, right? As you're crossing into between Africa and Spain into the Mediterranean Sea. And don't worry, everybody, we're going to put this on a map, so you're going to see it because some of the names, it's a custom map that I've put together. Some of the names people haven't heard of them. If you had, you should go on Jeopardy. At this point, I think, from these names. But also some of the maps at the time, especially heading into the Middle East, a lot of the dated maps at the time are in Arabic. I do not profess to be able to read Arabic. And other maps don't include the names of the cities that he's mentioning. So thought I'd put something custom together to indicate where he's headed. So as he starts to move across the Mediterranean Sea and heading towards the furthest point he's going to get to in the Middle East, we'll be breaking between those letters where they stop and catching up the audience on where he is on the map. So if you wanted to see this visually, to our audio listeners, you'll want to go to the website. To our YouTube listeners, obviously, this is a good time to turn your head if you're listening on YouTube and take a glance. But without further ado, Jamie, I think we should just dive into that first letter. All right.
Monday evening, January 10, 1949. My dearest Mama, this morning we passed the island of Pantelleria, just southwest of Sicilia. We passed it on our right so that we were between Sicilia and Pantelleria. This was at 8:30 a.m., and I got a good picture of it, though we weren't too close to it. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, we passed the island of Malta on our left, so if you have a map of Europe, you can see the exact route we are taking. I found out today that we are supposed to go to Abadan, Iran. It is at the very northern tip of the Persian Gulf. Notice at Port Said, we hit the Suez Canal, through the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, and over to the Gulf of Oman and then to the Persian Gulf. We will be about 8 degrees north of the equator at our most southern place. Boy, I'll bet it'll be really hot. We are now in the Mediterranean, and it is plenty cool. Not cold, but cool. One blanket and a sheet is almost too much cover.
All right, I am going to pause it here because he's detailing the entire trip and where these locations are. I'll bring up the map and then I'll resume the video here. So,
yes.
So here we go.
How cute.
Yeah.
Toot toot. I actually have, look, I have a little thing that Preston made me. It's that.
Oh, it's so cute.
It's tiny. And so it's that little boat. Okay, all right.
Yep.
That's enough.
Yep.
Okay. So.
All right. So let's take a look at the left side of the map here. Now, the countries I'm leaving unlabeled because, number one, countries' names change over time. Now, this is a modern map, so the outlines are based on the modern borders. With all the changing names, he might refer to something other than what it was. And the important thing is just knowing where these ports are. So this is the Strait of Gibraltar on the left. This is that section between Spain and northern Africa. So the tanker heads into the Mediterranean Sea this way. Now, you can notice the second boat on the map here, which is indicating this is Pantelleria. So the island to the north of the little boat that's on the map here is Sicily. So that's when he says this is going past Sicilia, because Sicily is the big island on that boot of Italy. So right now, at this point when he's writing this, this is where that tanker precisely is. But he also charts out the course of where they're going to be headed. So the third boat on this map represents where Port Said's going to be. Now this is the country of Egypt. So this is going to be one of the first spots. And you'll notice the fourth boat is all of a sudden separated from the Mediterranean. So that's the river that's running through that is allowing access to that strip of sea here. The fourth boat's in a narrow strip of sea. That is the Red Sea. So if you remember things from the Bible and the Old Testament, because the Red Sea gets mentioned quite a lot, that is the Red Sea. Okay. I just in case, I'm not going to assume that people are too familiar. I would think most people are familiar with the region, but it's a big enough name to call out. That is the Red Sea. So the third boat, the image of the boat on the map is Port Said. The fourth image, once it's crossed down the river into the Red Sea, that's the Suez Canal. That's where that's located. And we're going to hear about the Suez, because in order to get into the next part, as basically the boat rounds the bend from the Red Sea, where the Red Sea ends, and starts to head east, that's the Gulf of Aden. Then as the boat heads east again, and it starts to head northeasterly, that is the Gulf of Oman. So he mentions Gulf of Aden, Gulf of Oman. And the seventh and final boat is the final destination. The large country to the right, unfortunately in the news a lot right now, is Iran. The smaller country that's sort of carved into the northwest there, at the end of where basically the water stops, the little country in the corner, that's Kuwait. That's going to come in and be important. But this is where they're headed. that's going to be the final stop, and they're going to have to go out the way that they came. So this is not like we're going to make a loop and head into the Pacific or anything like that and go around India and all this other stuff. Once they're done what they're doing in the area of Iran, they're going to reverse course, go through the Gulf of Oman, Gulf of Aden, up the Red Sea through the Suez Canal, go back past Port Said, and then past Pantelleria, out Gibraltar, and back out the Atlantic Ocean towards the States. So this is a long trip. But I thought it'd be helpful to put it on the map there. So as these names, so people can have a visual about where he is. Now, he just said he was at Pantelleria. We actually have a picture that he took from the tanker. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this is Sicily, so maybe he really saw something. We have to remember, he's on a tanker. He's seeing what he can see from the tanker. And this is what he can see. There you go. That's the island going by. And he labeled this. We know exactly that it is what it is. So, all right.
It's just lovely.
Yep. Yep. To the people in Italy, I think he wished he could see more. But to everybody in our audio channel, and these pictures will be on the website, it looks like a big rock coming out of the ocean. And that's it. Of course, they're in the Mediterranean, so there's that. All right. And we'll continue with Lou's tale here.
According to the latest, we are due to arrive in Port Said Thursday afternoon. We might have to wait a while to go through the canal and also to take on fresh water. The chief engineer seems to think we will get back on or around the 22nd of February, but I and the rest of the crew doubt it. I have been as well as I could be without you. I'm kind of glad I got this long run. It'll make the time go faster, being only one trip instead of 4 or 5. I hope you received my allotments okay. I'll sure be glad when we get the bills paid and I know you're on your way. Oh, how happy I'll be. I miss you like I'd miss my right arm, and I'm going to make up for a lot of loving when you get to Philly. You always wanted to smooch. Well, let's see what you can do. I love you, I love you, I love you, I do. Lou. Wednesday afternoon, noon, January 12, 1949. Dearest Mama, we are now off the coast of Egypt and are due to arrive in Port Said at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. I don't know if we're going to anchor out in the bay, but have to pick up a pilot to take us through the canal. I think we will be starting back to the States on or around the 27th of January, so you can start writing to P.O. Box 7099, assume that time. We don't know for sure yet just where we are going. They say the captain won't even know until we are 3 days from our destination. I hope they come out to sell souvenirs like they did in Colombia when I was with the Sun. We heard on the radio that you were having a blizzard, Ohio, there. I wonder how the calves are faring. I hope you don't have to go out and feed them. How is Lou doing? I guess he'll be reading to me by the time you get here. Take good care of him, and especially you. I couldn't do without you. Love me and miss me as I do you. It won't be too long now. I keep telling myself, I'll try to mail these letters tomorrow if possible. I understand an agent of the company comes on board and collects the mail. Well, that's all for now. Take care of you two for me, and I'll try to take care of you in a couple of months. I love you and miss you. Your husband, Lou. Wednesday evening, January 12, 1949. Dearest Mama, the captain sent word down to bring all letters up tonight because we are due in Port Said at 5 a.m. He also said that each letter would cost something over $1. So if that is so, I wish you would write to Mom, Dit, and Bob, and Joe, and Marguerite, and tell them I am all right and send my love. I have written letters to them, but at $1.25 each, it would cost too much to mail them. Also, I have one written to Jean, so tell her too, will you? I meant to tell you before that my sporty feet, athlete's feet, is getting worse again, slower, so will you please send me some of that sticky stuff for them? I think it would be best to send it to 936, then I'll be sure to get it. Well, I'll have to finish up now so I can get this up to the old man's cabin. I hope there'll be some mail for me at Port Said, Though I guess it cost you so much, I don't guess you've written too much either, just so I know you're okay and still love me. That's all I ask. I do love you, and I want you to want me. I'll always want you, and I'll always love you, so take care of yourselves and miss me. All my love, Daddy Lou.
I can't take it.
Yeah.
It's so sweet. He obviously misses her so much.
Oh, yeah.
But something that I did pick up a little bit
Yeah.
earlier, he said, I hope you receive my allotments okay. I'll sure be glad when we get the bills paid and I know you're on your way.
Yep.
So that was in January. So she must be getting some money from him working. She gets it sent to her.
Yeah. To wrap up some bills, for sure. Yeah.
So they're going to wrap up bills, and then she's definitely going back.
Yep. However long it takes, he'll work on the boats, and then they'll get things settled, and then she's going to head back. That's the plan. That's the plan. Farmer Lou was just not meant to be. It was not going to be Farmer Lou. Now, ironically, my dad's pretty good at gardening. His son is going to wind up pretty darn good. So Farmer Lewis probably could have been a thing, but certainly not Lou Sr. So
no, Lou, he's made for the water.
He is. Yeah.
He surely is. So they were able. So right now, on January 12th, at the end of this letter, they're still waiting. They're going to be in Port Said the next day.
They're going to be in Port Said the next day. So yeah, This is where it can get confusing because you've got these two locations in Egypt, right? It's Port Said's one, Suez Canal is the other. So on the map, Port Said, it's that Egyptian coast looking out from the Mediterranean, whereas the Suez Canal is the Red Sea. And there's a narrow river that runs through that all these tankers that had to be heavily checked. Can you imagine the amount of oil tankers?
I was just going to say that. I was going to say that once they get there, then they probably have to wait in line.
Yep.
And then you can only and there's only certain people who are allowed to drive the boats through the canal, that they know the canal. I think this is also happens in like the Mississippi River too. Yeah. Like down where, you come into port, like you have to have somebody who knows what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
Drive through. Yeah.
And yet wasn't there, I'm trying to remember, maybe like 5-7 years ago, wasn't there a big thing where there was something that was blocking up the Suez Canal?
There was a boat, and it wasn't that. I don't think it was even 5. I think maybe it was 3 years ago. It wasn't very long.
Really recent. Yeah, this is a thing. Okay, there's a line of traffic. Imagine like the worst car jam you've ever been in, but there's nowhere to go. You're on a boat, and there's one guy at the front who's just stuck trying to go through the canal. I can only imagine the stories they had of this stuff happening back then, let alone today. We think about communications and the improvement that has to be huge for the canals. This is the 40s. I mean, the canal's been around for a while, but there's an established route. So there's probably this huge lineup going. Now, as he's going past Egypt, Lou stops again to take a picture with himself in it, with Egypt in the background. So we can show this one. And he labels this Egypt in the background. That's why we know it's precisely from this part of the trip. You can barely see it. You can see a little landmass in the back. But he's posing. He's showing off that he has his mustache at this point.
He's Joe.
Yeah.
He's his brother. And it's, I like too, did you hear when he was like, can you please write to my family? He called Elizabeth Ditt. That was so cute. But yeah, this is definitely a Joe picture. Well, I mean, he's got a little bit more of a rugged look.
He does.
Than Joe. But
Joe's pretty posh. Yeah.
Joe is, yes, he's posh. I like that.
Yeah.
And he's a sailor. He's a sailor. This is what he does. So he's in his element. This is a cool picture, even though you really can't see.
It's a little blurry, but yeah. For the 40s, I mean, it's just neat to know that it leaves some of the imagination open, for sure. Like, we know where he is. I'm so glad, because some of these photos are not labeled. I'm so glad he labeled this. And there's going to be other ones that we're super glad that he labeled, and they're coming up, but he hasn't talked about them yet. So we'll continue the story so we can.
SS Atlantic Transporter, Wednesday evening, January 12, 1949. Dear Jean, just a few lines to let you know that I am okay.
Before we continue with this one, note the change. This is one of the few letters that is not written to Sweetie. He must have spent the $1.25.
You probably know by this time that I am on my way to the Persian Gulf. We are now on our 13-day out and are due to arrive in Port Said, Greece at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. I don't know how long we will stay there, not very long I'm sure. Then through to the Suez Canal, Red Sea, then to the Gulf of Aden, on into the Persian Gulf. We're not sure, but they say that we are going to Abadan in Iran. It is at the very northern tip of the Persian Gulf. The trip is supposed to take 58 days, but will probably take longer if we go to Abadan. How have you been? How have you been to Lacona lately? I hope Sweetie and Louis are okay. I'd feel better about them if they were staying with you. You said you wanted them to come up for a while. Have they come? I heard on the radio that you were having a blizzard. It sure is nice here in the Mediterranean. Not hot, but comfortably cool. I guess it'll be getting pretty hot soon, though, for we go to south toward the equator when we go through the canal, and we'll be about 8 degrees north of the equator. Well, take care of yourself, Jean, and keep your eye on my family for me. I doubt if we'll go to France this trip. Maybe next trip. I'll see if I can get you something down here. Love, Lou.
All right, so he's catching Jean up on the story as to where he's headed. He says Port Said, Greece. No, Lou.
No.
This is Egypt. Very, very much so Egypt. And for the people who are looking at the transcription of the letters on the screens, he is not a reliable speller when it comes to the names of the places. One of the detective pieces here with working out these letters is to look up what he's talking about and be like, I don't think that's the right spelling of that name. So when he writes Aberdan, Aberdan, Iran, what he means is Abadan, which is exactly at that point where the photos and the story is going to tell us. So Andrew is pronouncing it correctly. Lou in the letter is spelling it incorrectly. For people that are following along with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's okay. We know that Lou's, he did drop out, so you have to give him a little bit of grace.
Yeah.
When it comes to the spell. And honestly, I can't spell either. So
you know what though? I think wasn't it like in World War II he wrote like Czechoslovakia and it was like perfect.
Oh yeah. Like I was like, what? How did he get that one? Yeah.
Inconsistent speller. That's what's going on here. But at the same time, these are also transliterated words, right? Because the original language is Arabic. So there's a whole thing to look into there for people that are kind of nerding out and like, oh my gosh. Because I'm a nerd about these letters in particular, 100%. Because we're painting a picture of tankers in the Middle East in 49. If you know your Middle Eastern history, and I don't profess to know it well, it seems to me that from the 70s on, there's a lot of what we would say sort of the more modern issues with the Middle East that we're still facing today as a country that we follow in the news. This is that moment after World War II when that's not really happening yet. I mean, Israel was just established in 1948. So I don't know. This is like that weird moment. I don't know if I should say it as it's almost like the old world shifting to like the modern world, but it's that in between. And we get to see this picture right at one of the last moments of like the old world.
I really love that. I love that you're calling this out because this is like, especially given like where we are today, this is June. It's the end of June in 2025.
Right.
And it's really cool. You're right that this is like it's like a small slice of what that world used to be.
Right. And this is also having changed itself because if we think of the beginning of the 20th century, we think about like the Ottoman Empire being in World War I. World War II just ended over here 4 years prior to these letters. So this is that tiny time period in the grand scheme of things between World War II and like the 70s. And then, it's a different world. So these are like those last pieces as it's sort of, I remember I was watching the episode when they're in Laconia and you see that picture of the shower outhouse that they're building. Like, modern plumbing is like a thing at this point, but there's still some outhouses that are being built and like things being retrofitted. I don't know if that's the right way to compare it. Maybe I'll cut this, but like it's the old world heading to the modern, and it's that last moment, that last tolling of that occurring.
No, that's an excellent juxtaposition. You're right, because they were still living in that world. Like they were still, like the world is catching up, and we don't have the technology and the community, you know, we're not able to communicate and pass news as quickly. So you got to figure that did go a little bit slower. And I love that example of like, there's modern plumbing, but Lou just built an outhouse
Right.
shower to
Right.
use.
Right. This is only a little window of time. So I hope our audience, you know, can ponder over that. That's what I've been pondering over with this. What happened? Because it's almost, Lou's letters are not panicked. Like every time I think about what's going on in the news and the news from the Middle East and this region of the world, there's a certain level of stress that is there. His letters are not stressed, and he's right there. There's no mention of politics or anything like that. He's not concerned with it. He's doing a job. And there's no sense in the letters that he's in any sort of like personal danger. Him, the crew, nothing. It looks like casual. We're going to take some pictures. Oh, look at this picture of this rock over here, you know, chilling. They're chilling.
They're working.
Yeah,
They're working.
Done. And there's no that hanging over of stress that we feel so much today. I know everybody feels this today about certain regions of the world. Unfortunately, it's just not apparent in these letters at all. And it's very refreshing. And I hope we can get back to a world where we don't have this going on. So I guess that's the ultimate goal.
SS Atlantic Transporter, Friday evening, January 14, 1949. Dearest Mama, I just came back from the captain's room. He sent for all of the men to come up to pay for the mail. My bill was $4.60 for 6 letters, so if this writing is too small to read, at least it is cheap. We arrived in Port Said at 8:30 on Thursday morning. We didn't tie up at the dock, but to buoys close to the dock. Came out on their boats with their to sell, and before we knew it, they were all over the ship. We had gotten word beforehand that their whiskey didn't have much whiskey, but boy did they have the diamonds, rings with 5 diamonds in them. They even cut our, to prove they were real diamonds. They were worse than the South Street Commandos. Hey, mister, my friend, I want to talk to you. Then they get you in a corner and pull out a handkerchief and unwrap the diamond ring. Just no phony. One of the fellows, one of them came down from $80 to a carton of cigarettes. I guess they were worth 85 cents. Not a penny more, though. I got something nice for you, Jean and Marguerite, but I couldn't find anything practical for your mother or mine. Not a thing for the men. But I did get Louis something, guess what? He's always wanted on, so that's all I could see for him. It really is a nice one, made of real camel hide and just as soft as silk. Well worth the money spared for it, I think. I bought some stamps for myself and a pair of nice brown shoes with crepe soles, $2 American, and 1 carton cigarettes. We were only there from 8:30-ish to 2:30 in the afternoon. I took pictures of the city and the pull boxes from the war on the way by. I was on watch down in the boiler room when we left and started through the canal, so I didn't get a chance to take any pictures of the canal. It's just like a man-made river anyway, with a desert on each side. It was so dusty that you could hardly see your hand in front of you. We arrived in Suez at 2:30 a.m. this morning, and as usual, I was up to see it. I couldn't see much more than lights. It is so much smaller than Port Said. We anchored out till about 5 a.m., then left. We are now in the Red Sea, and about all you can see if mountain in the distance. Once in a while we come close to shore, nothing but desert, not even a tree. Well, honey, at $1.05 per letter, I'm going to have to cut them short, too, write less. I'll write just when there's something to tell you about. Of course, I could write every day and tell you that I love you more and more each day, that I miss you so awful much, and that I want you and only again forever and ever. You're the only one I'll ever want. So if there's a day or two missing, just read this one. It will always be that way. I love you. I adore you. I do miss you. Your Daddy, Lou.
All right, I want to pause this one because there's a lot going on in this letter. So, and especially the tradesmen coming on board the tanker, which is really fascinating. And we actually have photos of this, which is even better. But I decided, I turned around for a moment there because he's saying, oh, I'm writing this really small. Well, Lou didn't enjoy paying like $4 for his mail. So when he starts writing these letters, he's writing in a more traditional script. But then he realizes, hey, if I can put more words on the page, I can make the weight of the mail less because I can use less paper. So then he starts to write really, really small.
Oh my goodness.
And it took a while to get through these, I will say.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. But it's still legible. It's like right on the border of not being legible. We do have the original airmail envelope, so if people were curious about
That's
that.
cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's still doing the writing a little bit on each day.
Yeah.
You know, kind of doing the like almost like a journal, so he can fit it all on one page and then not have to mail so much too.
Yep, that's his goal. Now, in addition to that, he's mentioning some things he's seeing in the water. So we're going to bring up these photos that he has. All right, so we have some photos that he took of Port Said. They're managing to get through during the day, so that's going to be really important to find out what's going on here. He's labeled these so we know what he's approaching. This is the tanker entering Port Said. Literally, he wrote entering Port Said. We can see in the background this area here. So there's Port Said, Egypt. There's not a lot to look at from these photos. They're still somewhat at a distance. He tries to get a better picture of Port Said itself. He does succeed with this. This is probably the best photo in the set of actually seeing some of the district, the commercial warehouses and things along the port.
I mean, this is what he could see.
That's it.
And that with his camera, you know. But yeah, so you can kind of get an idea. You know, they didn't have huge, big, tall buildings. No. But it was populated. There was, like you said, warehouses. Clearly docks and boats.
Yep. And then we have one of what he's mentioned. He mentioned the pillboxes from the war. And I wonder if these are even still there. They may or may not be today. I'd have to ask an expert to see if these are still out here. That is the pillbox. It looks like, for our audio listeners, if you had like a sandbar running out, that there's this cement little box. I mean, it looks like it sounds, jutting out of the water with fencing around it. So, Jamie, do you have any thoughts on what a pillbox would be used for?
It looks to me like a defensive measure.
Absolutely is. And he's noting it from the war. That's our clue. So these are like, think of them as like a bunker of concrete jutting out. You can put weapons in here and you can fire from these locations. During the war, in these various port areas, as part of the defenses around Port Said, would have been pillboxes. And he takes a picture of one of them as the tanker's going past.
Wow. And you don't think these exist anymore?
I doubt it. I mean, they're probably taken over by the water. If water levels have risen, that's not much higher up than it anyway. All right, he's going to talk about the tradesmen. I love how candid this photo is. So these are the tradesmen, and he writes in the back that they're eating chow. So they're breaking bread and having lunch with the tradesmen. And Andrew, I love his narration here of his quick, like the salesman's pitch that the tradesmen give. Sounds like a good deal on diamonds if the diamonds are real. That's really the question.
Well, they cut some glass probably with them.
Yeah.
But I think this speaks to your point too, like how things have changed. Because I don't think currently they would just let people. So these people just came up in boats to sell their wares because they weren't docking. Mm-hmm. So that was how they got to them. And they're like, yeah, sure, come on up and let's buy your stuff and break bread with us and sit with us. Yeah.
And here they are sitting there. And he says flat out they're eating chow. So they're having some lunch together as they go through. And as the tradesmen are aboard. This is how, notice he never stops and goes on shore anywhere. He wants to get something for little Lewis or Sweetie if he can get something, adorable for them. He is going to succeed with this as they continue into the Suez Canal. So I'm going to bring that one up even though we're about to get to that part of the story. This is as they're going through the Suez Canal. There's an Egyptian on board. Lou is here on the left side of the photo, and there's a tradesman on the right he's talking with, and he's picking up some beads. That's what he's examining here. He says this is an Egyptian selling beads as they go through the Suez Canal. So I think he's got some shades on too, Lou.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is a little bit hard to tell, but yeah, you can kind of get that.
Yep, but just casually on board, getting some souvenirs, basically.
Tuesday afternoon, noon, January 18, 1948. Dearest Mama, last night we left the Red Sea at 8:30 p.m. and are now in the Gulf of Aden. As yet we do not have our destination, but should know in a couple of days. At any rate, the captain said there will be no shore leave. I guess there will be out here too, selling souvenirs and fake diamonds. About halfway through the Red Sea it was pretty windy and kicked up a pretty heavy sea. Boy, we were really rolling. They had to slow down. We were rolling so hard, I really came close to getting sick. As I told you before, there was no mail for us at Port Said. I don't guess you wrote many letters direct over here at the cost of the mail. I guess box 7099 is your best bet. I sure hope there's something for me in Saudi. I worry about you and Louis. The last we heard, you were having a big storm. I hope you're not down with colds. Take care of yourself, honey. You know I couldn't do without you and Louis, and I don't ever want to have to do so. Be careful. There is still no word on where we'll go when we get back. Another Atlantic ship, about a week ahead of us, has loaded up and is on its way back already, so I guess we'll go right back too. This ship was due to go into the shipyard for repairs before this trip, so the fellows feel pretty sure we'll go in after this trip. Most of them think Mobile, Alabama. That's where it was built. Well, that's all for now. I sure do wish I could see you right now to hold you and kiss you just once. I do love you, honey. Love me too, will you? I wish you would send me a picture of you and Louis together. Send it to 936, please. I'll always want and love you. Lou. Friday evening, January 21, 1949. My darling Mama, this morning we finally received our destination. It is Fahahil, and not Abadan as I told you before. I don't know just where it is, other than in the Persian Gulf. I can't find it on the map. Maybe you can if you have a large-scale map. It has really turned warm, although I woke up freezing last night and had to get my blanket out. I went up to the boat deck at dinner time in 25 minutes, and now I look like an Indian. I really did, for such a short time, so you can see how the weather is here. We are to arrive in Fahahil Sunday afternoon. They say there's no dock or town, just a pipeline in the bay. I hope there will be some souvenirs to buy. I'd like to get you something from Arabia as well as Egypt. There should be some mail for us there. If there is, I'll try to answer all your letters and have them ready to mail in Port Said on our return trip. Today is our 24th day out, and we still have about 31 days or so to go. Time seems to pass fairly quickly, but not as quick as I'd like it to. I wish we had our own place again and was settled once and for all. I do miss you so much, and I worry about you, and Louis, does he still ask for me? I hope he'll not forget me. Tell him I ask for him and miss him a lot. I love you both so much. You're all I have, so take good care of both of you for me. Give my regards to Jean, the folks, and sisters. Until I can hold you and kiss you like I'd love to, here's a big kiss, long distance. I love you, Daddy. Tuesday morning, January 25, 1949. Darling Mama, we are now anchored at Fahahil. We arrived yesterday at 3:30. We passed here Sunday afternoon, but had to go on 30 miles further to take on fuel oil. Then we came back here and arrived yesterday. There were 5 tankers ahead of us. We will have to wait our turn, as we will probably be here till Wednesday afternoon at least. There is no shore leave here, nor at Kuwait, where we took on fuel oil. The skipper said Kuwait was a town of 55,000, but there is nothing here but oil tanks. At the rate, it's hard to say just when we will arrive back home. Some say the 28th of February, and some say the 1st of March. Well, the skipper asked for all the mail to be taken up, so I'd better get this up to him. I love you, Lou. P.S. There was no mail here, but they sent it back to Port Said.
All right, so this is the furthest point of the trip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up, again, the map route. Because I think it's important to keep reinforcing what part of the trip we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So focusing in on the Middle Eastern portion of the map. Port Said, of course, this northern coast of Egypt, Suez Canal, the other side of getting through into the Red Sea, which is here. And then we have the Gulf of Aden. This is the third boat in this part of the picture. And the fourth boat, the Gulf of Oman. When we get to the final boat where it's marked on the map, this small country on the northwestern side is Kuwait. And Lou is correct on the first time he spelled it, Fahaheel. Fahaheel for audio listeners. This is Kuwait, and that's the furthest point where they're going. As you can see, they've run out of water to go any further at this point. So at this point, the ship's going to start to turn around once they're done what they're doing. But we do have also some pictures of Suez and Kuwait. He takes a picture of the tanker going through the Suez Canal. This happens during the daytime. There you go. Now there's this big blur on the right side of the picture. Someone probably stood in front on the right as he was taking it, but you see all that cement and how flat it is. This is the canal locks that they're going through. Yep. So, and again, to our audio listeners, www.lovesweetpodcast.com. You'll definitely want to go to the photo galleries to get to see some of this. And then he decides to pose in front of the canal as they're going through. He likes to do this. He did this while they were passing through Egypt. So there's the Suez Canal in the background. And Lou, kind of interesting expression on his face. You see a little more of the tanker there.
Yeah.
He looks a little tired in this photo, I gotta be honest.
He kind of looks like Pedro Pascal a little bit, don't you think?
He does, yeah.
Doesn't he?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting. I'm getting a lot of Pedro from this.
Yeah.
But you can see like clearly there's some buildings there that like maybe even look like official. That looks like maybe a statue back there. So I mean,
we do have a little bit of a close-up on that. He does take a picture of it. Not much of a close-up, but something. He says this is the, if you were wondering what that thing jutting out of the water is, here's the close-up. He just labels this the Suez Canal, so we get a little view of it. There's clearly a building in the port in the background. Unfortunately, just not too much to see, but hey, that's how it was.
That's what we got, and it's pretty cool.
That's what it was, yeah. And then he notes the city of Suez, which it seems that it's starting to get a little later in the day when he takes this picture. And I mean, imagine that traffic jam getting through the canal. But you can see some of the boats. You can make them out in the water. And you can see some of the land behind. And so he's just giving like an idea. It doesn't look like there's really any places that are taller than 3 or 4 stories. At the most. And that's it. Now, if that's different today, you know, that's interesting things to look into. But back then, just from the glances we've seen of it, it's extremely flat. It doesn't look like there's many tall buildings at all, I think, as you observed earlier. Then we have some more tradesmen pictures, actually.
Oh, cool.
As we start to head into Kuwait. Oh, one more thing from Suez. He identifies this individual, and we get to see a little more of the tanker. And I love this picture because he writes exactly who this person is. He notes this is Captain Keenan. So this is the captain of the transporter at the time. We can't really see his face, but he got a picture of him. So
oh, well, cool.
We get to put a name to who was running things on the ship, which is even more important to actually have the call out that this is Captain Keenan, Keenan, for anyone who might be listening. And we get to see some more of like this is a very, I don't want to say cluttered, but a very busy top deck of this tanker that they're working on. A lot of what looks like sort of catwalks, basically, to get through to everything as you'd move through. These were pretty compact spaces. Then he talks about the pipeline in Kuwait as they head up there. And he takes this picture. I would have no idea what this is had he not put a label on it. He says this is the buoy holding the pipeline at Kuwait, Arabia. So the pipeline's in the water.
So that they can get up to it.
Yep.
And this is like, so it's just like a pipeline, and then they just connect to that. And are you serious?
That's what it seems to be. That's what I took from this. I mean, there's the pipeline. The buoy's holding it. So, and he mentions the pipeline. Yeah. And
that's craziness to me. Okay, now I'm gonna have to research this, and it might even still be done today. I don't know. All right, like, but that is ridiculous that there's just this little thing, and they just pull up to it, get the boat up to it, and hook it up. But that's like, I would feel like that there'd be a mess.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is weird. I have to like research this more.
Oil's in the water, in the ground. So in this area where it's so plentiful, they get a pipeline, and they're just like, there you go. At least at the time, that seems to be what it is. Because, I mean, they're not mentioning any other pipeline. This is further backed up by another photo he takes. So sometimes the photo fills in more.
Okay. I think I need to clarify this a little bit. So they're an empty tanker getting oil.
Yep.
Well, all right. That makes sense. Duh. But still, they're like,
it's a pipeline jutting out of the water. Yeah. And this makes sense because apparently the dock is unfinished in Kuwait. What he doesn't write in the letter, he labels in the photo. And he labels this photo, quote, the unfinished dock at Kuwait, Arabia. So this is what they meet when they get there. They're like, okay, we're going to get to this furthest point. I mean, the dock's unfinished. So it makes sense that the pipeline's in the water. I mean, what are you pulling up to? Nothing. It's unfinished. There's an American flag. This, what's interesting is the American flag that's captured in this photo. Right? Like, there's something interesting and eerie about that. It's pulling up to literally nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's going past this unfinished dock to get to this pipeline in the water. And there's just the American flag in the breeze on the back of this, or the front, whatever part of the tanker this is.
That's, I mean, given like, because we know where Kuwait is because we're kids of the 90s. So like, I actually remember seeing the beginning of the Iraq War on TV. Yep. So of course, we know Kuwait. And that pipeline that's just in the water, there's just a little sign that's like, here it is.
Oh, he's marking it. Yeah.
Here you go. It's right here. Like, because you don't have this. You don't have the dock. And I mean, he's been on the boat too. Like you said, he doesn't get any shore leave.
We have to imagine what we remember from the early 90s about Kuwait, because it was all over the news. This is only 40 years after these photos were taken. What happened between 49 and the 90s that made this such a contested area? Because it doesn't look like something that people would fight over from these photos. And yet that's why I think that image of the American flag hanging off the back is haunting. Because it's almost some sort of like little glimpse of the future of what could be coming. I don't know. Things are eerie sometimes in the way that they're presented in these photos because of what we know is going to happen, but what the person taking the picture does not. Then we do have another tradesman. This is labeled as the tradesman in Kuwait. So this is someone in Kuwait. And this is one of my favorite photos of the whole thing.
This is probably one of the best ones because you can see what's going on.
Oh, yeah. Just this whole casual vibe. So you figure there's an unfinished dock. He said there's only about 55,000 people there. He gives us a population. They're, getting their oil. They're filling up the tank. And then you've got this individual, the tradesman, smoking a cigarette, as everybody did back then. And in the back are the merchant marine guys, just kind of looking out, seeing what's going on. It's so casual. Again, we talked about earlier, there is no duress in these letters about personal safety or what's going on in the area or the region. This is that last number of years before we head into the modern issues in the Middle East. So, and it kind of brings a tear to my eye, and it's hard for me to express it in my voice because I'm so congested. But it represents like, gosh, I wish we use the phrase, or Macaulay used it was never a simpler time. That he's right. Of course, it was never a simpler time, but sometimes we just need to keep things simple and not let things get to the point that they're at. I would hope people are fighting to get back to when you can just be casually trading, and people from totally different backgrounds, not connected by the internet, not with all this knowledge, just guys. These are guys from Philly with tradesmen from Kuwait, sitting down, having lunch, smoking a cigarette, doing their thing. I wish we were at this point today. So,
Yeah, me too.
yeah. This is the kind of photo I'd like to send to the Smithsonian because it's so candid. This is what we don't have today, from what we can tell, just from how things are going in the Middle East from the news. And I hope we can get back to it. So I know I'm sort of like saying a lot, and I think the audience gets it. I think, everybody knows where I'm going with this, but this is the world I'd prefer that we have, is people from different cultures with the ability to be casual and just live their lives. So anyway, it's one of my favorite photos of the whole set. All right, and we'll continue into the next tale here.
So we are moving on to the 5th letter today.
Yeah, we are. Yep.
And probably my favorite.
Sunday morning, 10 a.m., February 6, 1949. Darling Mama, this is just a short note before we got our mail tonight. Suez, 7 p.m. I hope. I have been thinking about shipping our things, and I thought maybe I could get it done cheaper at this end. At any rate, it's worth investigating. So if you'll get the old Kessel receipt and send me the following information, I'll call every morning, company in Philadelphia, and see if I can get it done cheaper. Number 1, our total weight. Number 2, the miles from Philly to Lacona. Number 3, the price we had to pay and the rate. I would deduct around 500 pounds for what I brought. What do you think? Maybe you could send some of on your ticket, suitcases, approximate weight, and we could pick them up in the car. Well, that's all for now. I'll write tonight and let you know if there's any mail. I miss you with all my heart, and I love you all to hell. I'll always want you and only you. Daddy Lou. Monday noon, February 7, 1949. Darling Mama, we are now halfway through the Suez Canal. Another disappointment. There was no mail at Suez either. God damn it, why can't they do things right just like the Navy? I was so mad I couldn't sleep. I stayed up until 2:30 a.m. and worried. I do worry, honey, so please take good care of yourself and Louis. I'm sure you've written, I hope and pray, so if the company mail ever catches up with us, I'll get your letters. I won't be able to answer them and get them mailed in Port Said, so I'll answer them the rest all the way home. I'll have 17 or 18 days to do it. I have taken quite a few good pictures, so I'll be able to show you what I've seen. That is, if they come out. I dropped my camera and broke a piece out, and I'm afraid it leaks light. I have your pictures tacked up in my locker door, so every time I open my locker, I see you. But the sad part about it is I can't do what I'd like to do. I know just what I'm going to do when we're together again, so you'd better prepare yourself for the worst, or shall I say the best. I'll let you be the judge. At any rate, you can be pretty sure of a busy time.
What? See what I mean? I was like, Lou.
Yep. Yeah. This is where we put the little pepper on the screen. This is as spicy as it gets in the 40s, everyone. Lou is articulating 40s style.
He is. That is so.
I'm gonna put a little spicy pepper there just for. Oh, like there we go.
It is like the spiciest that we get, which is fine. This is good. I'm glad it's not any spicier. But I when he said, every time I open my locker, I see you. But the sad part about it is I can't do it. I'm like, hello.
Oh, we're there now. Yeah, I mean, he's running out of saying, I miss you, I want you, love me, and miss you, will you? He's said this probably 20 times up to this point. So he's trying to put some variation in there. And he gives us this phrase that we have not seen in any of the letters yet. Yep. Yep. There it is.
Whoo-hoo. It's a little bit, and and then these letters went to Jean.
Yeah, one to Jean. Yeah.
They all went to Jean. But he said that by the end of February they should be back. So he is definitely feeling the effects of being away from his family.
Yep. Yeah.
And I do love too that before, I forgot to mention when he's like, I hope you guys don't have colds.
Yeah.
Did we look at each other and go,
they do.
We're like, oh, they have colds.
There's a blizzard. No way. No way. We're not getting the storyline where Lou has pneumonia and has to go to the Des Moines hospital. Now, I don't know that happened, allegedly, but I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm sure.
Right?
I'm sure he was at the hospital.
Yeah.
Even with the good doctor there. He
Yeah.
probably had to go to the hospital.
So,
But yes. So Big Lou is definitely feeling the effects of being away from his wife.
yes, he is. So, oh, man. This is just a fun part of the letter.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I'm afraid this will be the last mail you will get until we get back to Philly, so I'll really have a big one for you then. I'll try to answer all your questions and tell you as much as I can how much I miss you and love you. I only hope you feel the same way that I do. I would be willing to live in a tent just to be with you again. I'll do the best I can to find a place for us. It would be just my luck to get in at night and not get a chance to look around. Maybe if you're at 936, you could be looking while I'm at sea. Hint, hint. Well, I guess that's all for now, honey. Do take care of yourselves and want me and only me as much as I want you and only you. I'll wait for you just as long as I have to, even if it takes 1 billion years, but 18 days would be more like it. Please do try to get on your way as soon as possible. I know it's hard, without the money and all, but it's a lot harder doing without my one and only love. Do you love me? Do you want me? Do you miss me? Yours till the end of time, Louis Sidney Graham Sr.
Oh, the official signature.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the only time we've ever seen it.
Mm-hmm. Is that the only time you've seen it?
The only time I've seen it, with the suffix there, too.
Wow.
It's really emphasizing how much he loves his wife. Yep, underlining all sorts of stuff going on in this last little section, but it leads to this idea that he has in his head, which is when he gets back, Sweetie should be there, and the story for the travels should not continue past this point. We have to remember, this is the second part of a trilogy, so things might not exactly go as planned. I don't think that this is the only trip he's going to take on a tanker, and our audience is going to find out what I'm talking about in the next episode. All right. But this is the last letter that he writes to Sweetie. However, he does get a postcard out to Jean. And so I'm going to go ahead and play the content of that little postcard.
Dear Jean, we are now at sea, on our way home. Have not received any mail as yet. Hope to get some in Port Said. I would sure like to hear from you. How is your love life progressing? Mine is absolutely nil, as you probably know. I sure do miss Sweetie something awful. Keep her happy for me until I am able to take over. Give my regards to Sister and Bill and the folks. Are you coming to visit us this summer? Love, Lou.
So he checks in with Jean as well as they're on their way back. But Lou does do one more thing before he leaves the Middle East. And this is not voiced because there is one way to get a faster form of communication over to the States. And that's by way of a telegraph, which is expensive. But we're in February, and Lou misses his wife. He's just written the spiciest thing he's ever written in a letter to Sweetie. And it doesn't escape him that it is Valentine's Day. So Lou sends the most charming little Valentine's Day telegraph directly to Sweetie. And we have the original telegraph. So I have a close-up of this. I'll bring it up on the screen. It was done by RCA. This is the original envelope for the telegraph when it was received. It says Radio Gift, the Radio Marine Corporation of America, which is RCA. I don't hear that too frequently. And then we have from the SS Atlantic Transporter. This is it. It's only got one line. I'm going to go ahead. I'll bring it up on the screen here so everybody can read the actual text. It was transmitted from Chatham, Massachusetts, from the SS Atlantic Transporter. Date just says Valentine, February 14th. To Mrs. Lewis S. Graham, to the sweetest girl in the world, will you be my Valentine? Lou.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Right?
He loves her so much.
He
It's
loves
so
her.
sweet. And I feel really bad because he mentions he's not getting any mail.
No. That's why
So he's
getting
just
upset.
basically writing and writing and writing. And if she sent him anything,
Yep. He's hoping it gets to the ports. And that's the trouble. He's like, that's why he's getting upset. He's like, even the Navy could do this better. They get to a port, it's like the boat's approach. Maybe I've got something. Nothing. But in the same time period, because we know he's definitely in the Middle East based on the other letters being dated February 6th and on 14th, he's still going through. So this is being transmitted through Massachusetts to their offices there. Had to be expensive. Every word is going to cost something on a telegraph. So he just keeps it sweet and simple. And I love everything about this. Also, I will say we do have one other picture of some things that he picked up on his travels that he wound up not using because it was getting too expensive. But he said he bought some stamps. And they survived. These are the Egyptian stamps that he got on this trip. And I have looked them up, and they are definitely from like 46 to 48. So these are absolutely the stamps of the time. They're pretty fascinating to look at. I basically, carefully with gloves on, made like a pile of these on a sheet of white paper. You can see some of them are in their original blocks. And unlike a lot of stamps that are traded today where people are interested in just finding them on eBay, these stamps he bought in person in Egypt and across the Middle East when he was there. He probably wanted to send more letters, but it was just getting pricey. And of course, they collect stamps, so he wanted to add them to his collection. That's why they're not really canceled or anything like that. They are completely in mint condition. They're unused. So when he put them aside, and when I saw these, I'm like, these are the stamps he grabbed. So, but
that's really cool. Yeah.
So, with that concludes the second part of our trilogy here of Lou in the Merchant Marine. This concludes his travels in the Middle East. It's just one of the most interesting parts. You know, my dad had never known that these letters had survived, that these photos were out there. When I came across them in the collection, it was the first time he ever saw them. So I had put them together in a book, and Dad has gone through this content as well. But it's a delight to have this content. Sweetie is still in Lakona at this point. We'll leave it at that. She's not coming back yet. We're going to continue with Lou's tales in the next episode. This episode's called To the Sweetest Girl in the World. Next episode's called I Love You with All My Heart.